Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's now 7:06 on this Friday, not just any Friday, Good Friday in your nation's capital. Thanks for tuning in here to WMAL, your record station. Record station? What is wrong with me? Your radio station of choice.
Larry.
In your nation's capital, the District of Columbia, the most powerful city on the planet. Joining us in 30 minutes, Byron York. Washington Examiner will be our guest. 8:05, Raymond Arroyo of EWTN, and 8:35, John Andrasik, singer-songwriter at Five for Fighting. That's Emily Domenech. Emily, say hi to the folks.
Hi, folks. How's it going? I'm always excited to be with Larry in beautiful D.C., where I'm watching a sunrise out the window. It's nice.
Patrice Onwuka off today, enjoying the holiday with her family, and she will be back next week. Joining us right now, CEO of Newsmax. Excuse me, I had a quick sneeze there. Chris Ruddy is joining us now, not only CEO of Newsmax and sort of changing the face of media as right before our very eyes, but also a longtime associate, I would even say friend of President Donald Trump. Chris Ruddy, thanks for joining us.
Well, Larry, Emily, the most powerful radio host in America, I'm glad to be on with you.
Appreciate that.
Powerful radio station. It's a very powerful radio station, WMAL.
We are quite influential here in this town. Thank you, Chris, for acknowledging that. Listen, I want to get to the news of the day, but first, personal news, and Newsmax has been your labor of love, your mission, something that you have been dedicated your entire, last couple of decades to. And you had a huge, huge development 2 weeks ago with your IPO. You're now a publicly traded company, and it was a blockbuster. Congratulations on that. This is seriously, this has been your vision for so long, and it's finally you've hit that day.
It's a 25-year-old overnight success story. We're just over 25 years.
Love that.
It's been amazing. It's been a blockbuster. It's still a blockbuster. We went public on the New York Stock Exchange March 31st. They said it was one of the most historic. Regulation A, we went right to the big board. We raised over $300 million. $300 million just at the time with the IPO and the pre-IPO fundraising. And then it's done really well. The stock market's been going down. We're up 150% as of yesterday, which is a huge gain.
That's pretty darn good, especially.
I think shareholders are saying they're tired of the old media and they like Newsmax.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because obviously Newsmax delivers the news and delivers analysis and context in a way that I think sets it apart from the same old tired way that you get it from other options. But media is about a lot more than just how you present the news. The medium is the message. How you're actually delivering it to people. Sort of the cable model is sort of yesteryear. How is Newsmax poised right now for this new advent of online streaming, video streaming, over-the-top platforming, and things like that? Because that's how we, the people, are choosing to receive our content.
It's really the number one question. We've had a lot of media. They always criticize Newsmax, and of course, some of the financial media is liberal. They'll say, it's just a cable channel. And a reporter for the Financial Times did the best story. He said, Newsmax has a really bright future. He said, I read all their materials. He said, they're on streaming. They have a streaming service. They're growing in cable. We were up 50% in the first quarter. We went from 22 million viewers last year to 34 million viewers. That doesn't happen by nature. And what it shows, Larry, is not that people just watching on cable. We're growing on every platform. Our social media is over close to 20 million people now. We have a Plus service. Our streaming channel, Newsmax 2, is on every major platform, Roku and Samsung and the rest. And I think what people are voting with their remote controls, 90%, according to the Media Research Center, of the press reports in the last election showed that Donald Trump was negative press reports by the major media. 80% of the press reports were positive to Kamala Harris. These people are not in sync with the rest of America. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He won every swing state. And they were entirely opposed to him. And so I think that there's not a lot of competition on the center right. People like you and Emily fill a powerful void in Washington, Fox News, but Newsmax is growing very, very quickly. And I think that investors, for instance, that are shareholders in Newsmax are seeing that potential.
Cool.
So you guys have kind of been on the forefront, obviously, of filling that void in, making sure there's more conservative voices. What do you see looking ahead as sort of how you're going to continue to adapt and develop to give Americans news in new and interesting ways?
Well, the old days, Emily, where everything was very siloed. You're on radio, you're only on radio. You're in newspapers, and it didn't credit. Now I describe it as all for all. We're on all platforms for all people, and if you look at what Newsmax does, in fact, if you go to Newsmax.com, we have a thing about how we're reaching about 40 million people regularly right now. The old days, if Newsweek or Time Magazine reached had a million circ a week, they were considered powerhouses. Newsmax reaches 40 million people regularly. The Reuters Institute just did a study last year, and they said there are 12 top U.S. media brands for news, and Newsmax was one of them. And I think this all for all that we're on so many platforms, it's really, I think, the way of the future, and we were the first really to adapt to this.
Yep. Yeah, you were internet-based before it was cool. As I remember your headlines and your service streaming at the Breitbart sites when we were launching with Andrew in the early days. We had a little Newsmax box that you can click on the stories and swing over there. It was a nice partnership. Chris, we'd be remiss if we didn't.
We might also go into radio soon. Who knows?
All right, I'll call you after the show. We're speaking with Chris Ruddy, CEO of Newsmax, and it would be remiss if we didn't tap into your understanding and knowledge of Donald Trump and how he operates. As it seems like so many people missed the mark on reporting the tariff story and what's going on there with tariffs and how he's working. You saw him with Prime Minister Maloney yesterday in the White House. What do you think's happening here with regard to how President Trump is approaching the tariff issue? And most specifically, I mean, I think I've heard you say it in other platforms. Ultimately, this is really just about China. So what's that end game looking like?
Sure. Well, I've known him for almost 30 years. I've always known him to be extremely savvy and never really doing something the media makes it out like he's doing something crazy. He's doing something, I think, very smart. He's not for tariffs. I mean, he's using tariffs, but he's for fair trade. He looks at these deals, China for years, as he always says, they built themselves on us. And they have tariffs for years. We can't sell products, or very, very few products sell well in China, but they dump into our markets all the time, and they take jobs and he's saying that's unfair. He once said to me, you go to Europe, you look at the hotel room in Berlin, and there's no American cars. But if you go through New York on the streets, it's just, a lot of German cars, a lot of Japanese cars. Why? Yeah. They have a big tariff against American cars. So he's like, this is crazy. So he's undoing 30 years of wreckage of U.S. policy. We did sell out our jobs and industries. And he's saying, let's reorient these deals so that we do have real fair trade deals. The only caveat, he wants to have a car tariff because he wants a car industry here. But generally, he wants fair trade.
It seems like something that we've been promised for many decades, but we've never really been able to follow through and deliver. And he seems bound and determined to deliver. If anyone can, this is the guy to do it. We got to leave it there, sadly. Chris Ruddy, again, congrats on the IPO and the growth of Newsmax. It's something to behold, and we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and tell all your listeners, check out newsmaxinvest.com. You can read all about what we're doing with the SEC and all our filings, but also some of the new things we're planning ahead.
Nothing grows your ratings on a morning talk show like this than public disclosures. So well done, you. Honestly,
I got it in.
We usually devote half an hour to SEC announcements, so that's perfect timing, Chris Ruddy. Thank you. You fit right in.
Well,
thanks, Chris.
You two are perfect. Thank you.
7:16. Well, I don't know about you, Emily, but I can't get enough of Katy Perry and space stories.
They're amazing, except for the fact that she didn't sing E.T. How?
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. You had a song about space, girl. Go all in.
She spent 10 minutes weightless, and she has gotten about 2 weeks worth of, residual news coverage out of it. And this is well, first, let's remind you of what Katy Perry had to say when she came out of the space capsule from Blue Origin. The scientific experiment here was, can Hollywood celebrities get any more sufferable if they get into space? The answer, absolutely,
no.
Conclusively, cut 12.
So I feel really connected to that strong, divine feminine right now.
Yes, the strong, divine feminine. Of course, Gayle King was very profound when she got off the capsule.
To me, it's such a reminder about how we need to do better, be better. Do better, be better human beings.
There you go. All right, so
what
now...
in the world are they talking about?
We don't know. And then Gayle King also got indignant because she was, it was being described as a ride instead of a mission. No one said that about men. Alan Shepard, when he went on, you're not Alan Shepard, Gayle King. The whole point of this is to promote space tourism. Like, you don't have to be Alan Shepard to go into space. That's the point. All right, Katy Perry is now saying that she regrets making a public spectacle of this space flight. She told is this the Mirror that she told, the UK Mirror, that, hold on, let me find the full quote here. This is a source. Katy doesn't regret going to space. It was life-changing. What she does regret is making a public spectacle out of it.
Wasn't that kind of the whole point? Like, here's the thing. I think it's cool. I would love to get to go to space for 10 minutes. Like, that's amazing. But let's just acknowledge it was a passenger ride. It's a really cool experience that you got because you're a rich, famous celebrity. And truthfully, if we wanted to have an all-female space crew with scientists or engineers, we could. They're still pretty ones. Like, the last two Miss Americas were an Air Force lieutenant and a nuclear engineer. Why aren't we sending them into space?
Because they're not Katy Perry, and they don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, which she does. And she posted a picture of her 4-year-old daughter Daisy's lunchbox that was packed with pretzels, carrots, pineapple chunks, and fruit snacks. And she said on the caption, "Back to reality, packing school lunch." So she's finally, come down off of the high of the 10 minutes of weightlessness in the stratosphere. She also posted a picture brushing her teeth with her fiance Orlando Bloom. Fiance, how long have they been engaged? This has been going on for 10 years. All I know is they have a
4-year-old kid, so they've been together for a long time. But yeah, the whole thing is just, it's ridiculous, and I think it's a perfect example of like how the sort of coastal elites are disconnected from regular people, who are worried about like the price of groceries and gas and normal things, and then they see Katy Perry saying that she's going to space. Like this is some great leap for female kind here,
So to bring it back to politics, by the way, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy has replied to the Blue Origin social media account. So Blue Origin is the rocket owned by Jeff Bezos that sent these the cast of The View up into weightlessness for 10 minutes. And they, on their social media account, they identified them as the astronaut crew. Secretary Duffy begs to differ and says the U.S. commercial space industry is an inspiring project which showcases American ingenuity and exceptionalism. The last FAA guidelines under the Commercial Space Astronaut Wings program were clear. Crew members who travel into space must have demonstrated activities during flight that were essential to public safety or contributed to human space flight safety. The crew who flew to space this week on an automated flight by Blue Origin were brave and glam, but you cannot identify them as an astronaut. They do not meet the FAA astronaut criteria. So
I love everything about this tweet, especially because he was like, "You guys were super glam, but just remember you're not actually an astronaut," which is totally fine. It's not at all bad to be like, "Yeah, I got to go and do a cool thing and go to space."
You were brave and you looked
Glam.
fabulous. Just stop
Glam.
calling yourself an astronaut.
I mean, he was on the real world. He knows what it takes to look fabulous.
Exactly. It is 7:23. Coming up, the great Byron York. We'll talk about the curious political strategy of Democrats rallying around their favorite Maryland father. You know, the one who's a gang member from El Salvador. That's next.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36. Thanks for tuning in here on this Good Friday in your nation's capital. Coming up at 8:05, Raymond Arroyo, managing editor of EWTN, will reflect on the Good Friday as well as the Easter holiday right in front of us. Also at 8:35, our friend John Androsik, singer-songwriter, Five for Fighting. He's re-releasing his classic Superman to honor the Israeli hostages. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor. Emily Domenech is with us this morning as Patrice is out for an Easter vacation. I got you mid-sip there. Sorry about that.
I did. I just had to get my caffeine this morning.
I understand. You're pounding the Celsius here, and we are proud of her for that.
As I say, I'm a military officer. I got to do like Celsius or Rip It if I'm really going throwback.
Joining us right now is Byron York, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Of course, you should sign up for his newsletter from the Examiner, which is brilliant. And Byron, every time I'm perplexed about American politics, I always turn to you to help me figure it out. But it appears you're just as perplexed. The strategy of Chris Van Hollen taking the lead, at least, but other Democrats as well, tripling, quadrupling, quintupling down on this Maryland man. He's just a Maryland father, Byron, where the evidence from the Justice Department seems pretty clear that at the very least there was plenty of reason to believe he was a member of the MS-13 gang. Certainly he was in the country illegally. But Chris Van Hollen continues to play this out. He thinks that it's helping him politically. What am I missing?
Father and husband of the year.
Yes, I forgot about his doting love for his wife. Yes.
Now, don't you think? I think actually a lot of other Democrats like Cory Booker are just kicking themselves today. You know, they thought Chris Van Hollen, he was going to get turned down. He looked kind of silly down there, just kind of sitting around hoping to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's there at apparently in some sort of cafe. Apparently, the Gulag has a cafe, and he got to sit and have drinks with Kilmar, and determined that Kilmar Abrego Garcia seemed to be in good health and all of that. I don't know. I mean, first of all, it's kind of weird in the sense that many of the people who are most upset, most passionate about the issue of due process today, did not care very much at all about the rule of law when millions of people were crossing into the country illegally and unvetted. But we'll put that aside. I should just say my feelings about this thing is I think that there is pretty persuasive evidence that he is a gang member or was a gang member. He got due process. He got a hearing before an immigration judge, and then he got an appeal of the immigration judge's decision. Both of them went against him. He was given a status called WOR, withdrawal of removal. And it was an interesting thing. I wasn't aware of it before. It means that he can be deported anywhere in the world except the one country that he said he feared reprisals or violence if he went to, and that was El Salvador. So the ruling was from the immigration judicial system was you can deport this guy anywhere in the world except El Salvador. So the Trump administration sends him to El Salvador. I think, and they say that was a mistake. They said it was a mistake. So my feeling is that the way to legally remedy this mistake is to have him released, take him to the U.S. Embassy in El Salvador, and deport him somewhere else other than the United States. You've got to get that country to agree to take him, but deport him somewhere else. But now, why have Democrats made this such a cause celeb? Obviously, because Trump is on one side, and if Trump does A, they want to do not A. But otherwise, and also obviously, Democrats a lot of these Democrats were not very upset about the border until it became just a horrendous disaster, and it became clear that voters cared about the border. So, why are they just were they running over themselves to sort of defend Garcia? I don't really know. That's a long way of saying I don't know. You said you came to me for answers, and I don't have an answer.
Yeah, thanks, Byron.
Yeah. I mean, my take here is that if you're the Trump administration and the worst story is that you accidentally deported someone who is obviously a terrible person who you could deport almost anywhere in the world to the wrong country, that's not a bad story for them in the big picture, particularly with Democrats leaning all the way in on it in a way that seems sort of divorced from regular people.
I think you've really just hit the Trump White House feeling about this, that Garcia is a bad guy. There was a mistake in the handling of his case. They can remedy that mistake. He's still deported. End of story. By the way, you know the Tennessee angle on this?
I was just about to ask you about it because I know you've done some independent reporting on it.
Well, it was one of these stories you look at, and I didn't promote it or send it out on Twitter or anything because, I just wasn't sure that it was true. And then the next day, this organization, the Tennessee Star, did another story saying that they had sent all these inquiries to the Tennessee Highway Patrol and the Tennessee Department of Public Safety and all the other organizations, and they were getting the runaround. And I had sent a note myself to the Tennessee Highway Patrol yesterday morning, and I just hadn't heard anything all day. And so I tweeted that out. And then shortly thereafter, I got an email confirming that this thing happened. So I will talk about it, which is in December of 2022, Garcia was stopped for speeding in Tennessee. And that part, the Tennessee Highway Patrol confirms, and they also confirmed that upon consultation with the FBI, the FBI recommended that the officer who stopped them just let them go. It was about a 2-hour traffic stop, according to the Tennessee Star. And the thing that strikes me as interesting here is that Garcia allegedly had 7 passengers in his car. And so what's the deal there? Is it a bunch of family members and they're coming back for Grandma's 80th birthday celebration? Or is it a number of people he got who had crossed illegally into the United States and Texas who were being brought up to Maryland to either take jobs illegally or to be gang members? I don't know. Right, but the officer, the police officer, was somewhat suspicious, apparently, wondering why you got these 7 people. Do you know these 7 people who are in your car? Can you name me everybody who's in your car? And if you had all your sisters and your cousins and your aunts in the car, you could probably name them all. But
right.
So there's a lot we don't know about this stop, so I won't characterize it beyond that. But it's something you certainly want to know more about, and I think it could shed some light on his activities.
And Byron, again, just with regard to the politics of it and whether this helps or hurts the Trump administration, this is information we never would have gotten had Chris Van Hollen not done this big public show of trying to save this guy and all the things that have been said about him. And what it tells us is that the Biden administration, the FBI under the Biden administration, knew they were in the country illegally, knew that the police in Tennessee were suspicious. They had detained them, contacted the FBI, and the FBI said, hey, yeah, it's fine, let him go. Which again re-emphasizes the fact that Trump is the law and order president, actually enforcing the laws, and Biden and the FBI couldn't care less before he won the election. Again, it's just win-win-win.
Let me correct one thing about in the country illegally.
Okay, sorry.
From what we know, Garcia did enter the United States illegally somewhere around 2012, okay? And he gets in trouble in 2019. So he's here illegally the whole time, gets in trouble in 2019 when the police in Prince George's County, Maryland, see him loitering outside a Home Depot. I think it's in Hyattsville, with 3 other guys. And they ask him questions, and he has no idea who these other guys are. never saw them before, has no idea who they are.
He
And
says.
they get them all separately. They get them all separately and interview them separately, and none of them have any idea who the other ones are. So that makes the police suspicious that these are gang members. There were also other reasons like clothing that they thought they might be gang members as well. So that's when he's in trouble. He realizes he knows he's here illegally, and he says to the immigration judge he wants a hearing. So he gets a hearing, and the judge says, "Well, it looks like you're MS-13, and you say that you're afraid to go back to El Salvador because you feel you'll be target of violence. So we're going to give you this withholding of removal status that I mentioned before." Now, that is a legal it means you can be deported, like right away, but it is a legal status, although it would require some extra proceeding to actually to change the rule and send him to El Salvador. So he was here legally.
I hear you. I guess entered the country illegally. Also, he at the time of the traffic stop was undocumented because he had no driver's license, nor were the other 7 people in the car documented. And despite that order that, yes, theoretically was a legal status, he wasn't legally allowed to work. That's not having a green card. That's not being a resident. And we know now that he's been working because he was a union member. It just keeps unraveling in terms of exposing what our policies were.
When he was picked up in March of 2025 this year, the ICE showed him pictures of himself with people thought to be gang leaders and members, and he had no idea who they were.
No idea who they are.
Why am I in a picture with these guys? I have no idea. He had a habit of being photographed and hanging out with people that he had no idea who they were.
Thanks for the download of facts. They're in short supply on this story, Byron York, and we always appreciate your reporting. Appreciate you joining us.
All right. Good to talk to you.
All right. 7:48.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
I think it's no secret that Donald Trump loves the city of New York, and he wants to get the city, make it great again. So to that end, he's fired the MTA from a revamp of Pennsylvania Station yesterday, and he's now put the feds in charge of the makeover. Amtrak is going to spearhead the renovation, and they're going to use a public-private partnership model, according to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. The redo of Penn Station has been mired in controversy and corruption and delays and incompetence because, New York government. The MTA is pretty – the MTA makes D.C. Metro look functional. And since it's the major hub for Amtrak up there, Trump's gone ahead and said, yeah, the feds can fix this and they'll do it better than anybody else. It's like Woolman Rink all over again. Trump's gonna get it done. That's right where Madison Square Garden is, by the way. So it's very cool.
Right. I see it all the time. Every time I take the train to New York to go do Fox News or something like that, I go through there and I think, wow, it's still under construction. I guess it'll be like this forever. So I hope Secretary Duffy can turn it around.
It's been a mess. It's been chaotic, and this is right up Trump's alley, and it's a passion project. Let's see what happens. If he does fix it, I think there's plenty in D.C. that we would like him to take over from the district
100%.
council. 7:54.